welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. On this episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ashley Corts, the owner and founder of Black Forge Coffee, a coffee roastery and shop with 2 locations in the Pittsburgh area. Black Forge was started in 2015 by Ashley herself, and since then has grown into 2 locations that strive to support their local communities in both music and arts, and also create a safe space for artists of all kinds, as well as providing amazing coffee. So grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up! What's going on, Caffeinated Crew? I'm here with Ashley Corts, the founder and owner of Black Forge Coffee, based in Pennsylvania. Ashley, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing incredible with my cup of coffee this morning. So let's get right into the coffee. What are you drinking this morning?
This morning, I'm actually drinking a dark Sumatra. I love the flavor notes. It's nice. It's smoky. It's chocolatey. And that's just the vibe I was going for this morning. That's
awesome. Is that one that you're roasting there at Black Forge?
Yeah, so we do. So this is just a single origin of that. We do single origins and blends every day. So
awesome. I'm having DOGMA. Is a Chicago, Illinois-based roaster. It's actually run by Mike from the Devil Wears Prada, so that's kind of how I found it. Yeah, I know. But I'm drinking their light roast. It's called Freyja. It does not have any origins on it, but I believe it's like a blend of Ethiopian and a South American origin coffee.
Does it have like floral or fruity notes to it?
It has like strawberry. Cool. Like a lot of like citrus, like lemon citrus in it. And they put coconut. I'm not getting a lot of coconut on the tasting, but definitely that strawberry. So I can taste the Ethiopian in there, but I'm not getting a lot of like the nuttiness. So it may just be Ethiopian, but.
It could be. I mean, that's the thing too. Like when you get into coffee and you start to realize your customer base and stuff, like you figure out what your customers look for. And for us, like, our customers love a dark, chocolatey, nutty coffee. We play around with Ethiopian. I'm a huge fan of Ethiopian, but it's just like, it's not the biggest seller for us.
Right.
But I do love those floral notes that come out of that as well.
Yeah, I am 100% a washed Ethiopian, and I'm getting into natural Ethiopians now, but there's been some cool stuff that South American coffee, they've been doing honey processed.
Yes, we've had a couple honey processed coffees through our doors, and it's awesome.
Those notes are just beautiful, incredible. Have you had any experience with anaerobic coffee yet?
Have not.
I'm gonna say this wrong, but the process is like it's a different type of fermenting when they basically ferment the beans after or during the process. So you could have a really traditional style of like Colombian coffee or even like Peruvian, and it just tastes like red wine fermentation.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. So I'll have to tell our roaster about that. I'm sure he knows, but like I'll bring it up.
Weird notes. But yeah, it's just a punch in the tongue full of flavor.
Love it.
I would love to know your introduction into the coffee industry.
All right. So my introduction to coffee. My parents, obviously, like growing up, they drank coffee every single day. I actually started loving it when I first tried it when I was like in middle school. But they're the people that like my dad drinks it black and then my mom puts like a bunch of cream and sugar in it. So I discovered that I'm a black coffee drinker through and through. And then when I was about 19, I started my first coffee shop job in Pittsburgh when I moved here. I'm originally from Rochester, New York. I moved to Pittsburgh in 2018, went to art school. I was going for filmmaking, and I was, I got my first job as a coffee shop person, as a barista. And I just started making drinks and learning more about coffee. And I've been doing that now for, 12, 13 years. And in 2014, I was 24. I started writing my business plan for this coffee shop. And previous to that too, I'm also a lighting designer for all the music venues in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So that's where like the combination of music and coffee kind of come together. It's just like, that's what I did. I'd wake up every morning, work my barista job, go to school, go light a show, do it all over again. And 2014, I started my business plan. And then in 2015, I opened up this tiny little 49 capacity music venue coffee shop in this neighborhood called Allentown in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And, at the time, that neighborhood was like, dealing with a lot of issues, a lot of like, drugs and all that stuff. So I really wanted to make an impact on that community because like I lived there for years and I really wanted to make sure that I can give back to the place that I pay homage to. So opened up the coffee shop and we held shows every day. It was crazy. We would do, like variety nights of like comedy or burlesque shows. And then we'd hold Shy Halud the next night, right. Or, Full of Hell played there. We've had a couple really cool bands come through. This band from Singapore called Wormrot played. Mm-hmm. That was like our first international band. And I was like, what? Like I had no idea that you were playing our tiny little coffee shop. So, I've had so many great experiences with that. And, I just like, we didn't start roasting our own coffee until 2019, just because we had such a small space and it was just me and my friend at the time. So, we just like busted it out for 3 years and worked towards the goal of like owning our own roastery. And then, we were told by our landlords, like, hey, people are moving in above you, can't have shows anymore. So we were like, what do you mean? And we threw a Kickstarter for 30 days to help us raise money to open up a larger music venue and coffee shop and roastery. And we raised over $36,000 in 30 days.
Wow.
To open up that coffee shop. And damn right we did. So... And we've just been roasting and hosting shows ever since. I mean, unfortunately, because of COVID, we were only open for a couple months before COVID at our second location. And we just never really got a chance to shine when it came to like hosting shows and events. So the last like year and a half has been a pretty big struggle with that building, especially because like I bought it and like all the things. Right. And when you project you're going to do all these wonderful things and buy this really expensive building and then it just like crumbles, you're like, what do you do? But since the beginning of October, end of September, we've been hosting shows again. So we just started getting back into it.
Right. I think October 1st was y'all's first one back, right?
Yeah, officially. Because there was just like a couple of things here and there, but like to get fully back in the swing of things, it's been since the first. Yeah.
It's cool. I'm glad that y'all are able to, get rolling again. I got to check out some of the pictures of the McKee's Rock venue.
Yeah.
It looks sick. And you guys have a roasting experience as well.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Would you mind talking a little bit about that? Because that's really cool to me.
Yeah. So what we did when we first got that building was we really wanted to focus on bringing more people into the coffee community. And learning more about their coffee, especially the stuff that we produce, because we are such an alternative, weird coffee brand that people already kind of look at us like, what are these people doing? But I mean, getting people in the door to just experience everything that we've put all of our hard work into, we really wanted to showcase that on top of the roasting. So I sell tickets for either couples or individual people. We hold about 10 people at a time. And, it's like a 2 to 3 hour experience where you come in, you hang out with us, you get a coffee, and then we go into the roasting experience. And our machine, we have a Mill City roaster. Yeah, we have a Mill City gas roaster. So we roast about 10 pounds every 10 minutes. Okay. And so we go through that and we'll make a couple of roasts with these people, like a light, a medium, and a dark to kind of explain, what's going on and use different beans to add in the notes and the whole science behind coffee. Right. And then at the end of it, you get to take home 2 pounds of it. And and that's like your full roasting experience. And then we'll have like snacks and like drinks and stuff out too. But we just like to make it a whole thing.
Yeah, I love that idea of showing people firsthand. So the fact that you guys are doing that, you're giving people an opportunity to say, like, if you want to learn more about coffee, just come and we'll show you.
That's the one really important thing for me as a business owner and just as who I am, is I'm always trying to find ways to kind of give back to the people that support us and, try to make opportunities happen for people. That's why we do like a lot of collaboration roast with like smaller bands and like do one-off limited edition stuff with people. I really believe in opportunity. And if it wasn't for the people that supported me, like I wouldn't be here,
Exactly.
Like I didn't have the money to kick this off that I needed. I didn't have this, I didn't have that. And like, because of everyone that wants to support our coffee shop, like now I'm able to own 2 music venue coffee shops and be able to do all the things that I want to do and still like be humble and give back. And, with the coffee experience too, like I promote within my company as well, especially when it comes to my baristas being like, I want to learn how to roast, or I want to learn how to do this or whatever. I always, give them the opportunity to do so. And like 2 of our newest employees like showed interest in learning how to roast, and they just had their first roasting experience with our head roaster the other day and they love it.
That's awesome.
The one employee is like, this is her first job ever. She's 18. She's the youngest employee I've ever had. And I'm like, oh man, I got to be a good influence. This is so hard. But she's crushing it. I'm just like, damn, I'm so fortunate. Like I have a really amazing staff that's always like putting together ideas and being creative. So it's great.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really, really great. Like I think coffee education, especially for people that will listen, is super important.
Yeah, no. And like, I'm very fortunate for our customers because they like actually care. They get involved. They like come into the shops and like ask us, what's going on this weekend? Any cool shows? Anything happening? Like, what's your next experience happening? And it's just like, it's so cool. I'm just really grateful.
Yeah. So speaking on, the customers and education and, having a great support base, the one of the goals of Black Forge is creating a safe space for artists and all types of, art and culture. Like you have burlesque, you have heavy metal, you have all kinds of artwork and stuff that's displayed. What is the importance in your mind behind creating that within the coffee and heavy metal or heavy music industry?
Yeah. So, just to like come from my heart, I was always kind of like the weird, nerdy loser kid. I was bullied a lot. I was picked on. People beat me up, like I was just different. I listened to a lot of metal and like people associated that with, like Satan and whatever, back in the 90s. So like, but yeah, I mean, I was always like a nobody. And like just went through my life and did my thing and like was content with what I was doing. And as I got older, people kind of like, I worked for this company and it wasn't a good situation. I was being sexually harassed a lot and discriminated against in the music industry. Mm-hmm. So it took me a lot of time to confront my business owner, my boss, and being like, hey, this is a problem. Like I'm having a really hard time working here because of this. And they ignored me.
Right.
So I knew something was wrong. I talked to a couple of friends and they were like, file a lawsuit. So this is when I was 23 years old and I filed a lawsuit. It took 1.5 years and a lot of soul searching, a lot of just everything. It was a nightmare. And I won that lawsuit because I found a lawyer that believed in me and believed that what was happening is truly wrong, because I contacted like 4 or 5 different lawyers. They were all males and they're like, we're sorry, like sexual harassment cases are really hard to win. Like there's not a whole lot going on here. And then one person was just like, no, like I have to take this on for you. And with that money, I was able to open up my coffee shop. And that's really important to me, is to show people that, like, if you continue to stand up for yourself and what is right, and you continue to be positive and put forth what you want in your future, you can make that happen, even in the darkest times of your life. And that's what was important to me, is creating this space where people felt safe to come in and be themselves and drink coffee and do homework and be weird and play music, you know? And I wanted to make sure that I could be a leader that would always make sure that my employees came first. Because I've always been that employee that no one gave a shit about. So that's another huge part of what I do, is just to make sure my employees are happy and they're treated well and paid well, and, you know, that they can come to work and just be like, yo, I'm stoked to be here, you know? And like every day we get, you know, at least one Google review or whatever. I took off reviews on Facebook and all that stuff. Like, no, but, you know, at least one Google review comes through every day. And it's just like, you have the best baristas, like such great customer service. You know, I was scared about the satanic feel, but it was the best coffee I ever had. You
That's
know?
amazing.
So
all
we
the
get
drinks
funny,
are
like
$6.66.
Yeah. I forgot. Someone left us like a 4-star review yesterday, which is so funny. He was just like, great coffee, but metal was not my vibe at 7 a.m. And I was like, what did you expect?
It's everyone's vibe at 7 a.m. You just have to, it's like coffee. You got to learn to love it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too with our customer base, is like, we have like the mayor comes into our coffee shop, and like all these like political people and, you know, just different varieties, and they all just kind of chill out and vibe to it. It's like, yes,
That's
I
sick.
made you listen to Black Sabbath today.
That's awesome. Speaking of Black Sabbath, you guys collaborate a lot with smaller bands and, you know, maybe lesser known artists, which is really incredible, that, you know, outlet of support. When it comes to collaborations, how involved do you like the artist to be?
Okay. Yeah. So with every artist, it depends obviously if they're local or not, and how involved they get. But when it comes to a local band, let's say, I'll contact them or they'll contact me and be like, hey, you know, like our minimum order for like collaborations is like 20 pounds or 20 bags or, you know, 20 pounds, just because of how much we have to roast and blend and all of that. So we have to meet that minimum. And, you know, we give them our wholesale price, and we tell them like, it's either you can design your own coffee labels or we can help you design it. And here are the few specifications that you have to put on the label. So we give them the full creative ability to put whatever they want on their labels. And then we ask them, you know, like some of the bands don't know anything about coffee. They just love coffee. So there's like, what do you think? And then we'll send them samples and they'll come down and like hang out and we'll talk to them. Or they'll be like, I want a medium Sumatra Guatemala blend with this, that, and the other thing. We're like, great. Yes, I'm glad you know what you want. So like I said, if it's a local person, we'll invite them down to the roastery and hang out that day when we're roasting their order, just so they can like take pictures, ask questions, be more involved, and know what product they're putting out there. Because it's super important. When you're pushing something for yourself, you need to know 100% what your product is and why it's important for those customers to buy it.
Right.
And, you know, like we do the whole thing. And then sometimes, depending on like if it's a band or an artist or whatever, we'll host an opening night of that coffee being released or that show or whatever. And we'll have that coffee on drip. We'll have the bags everywhere, and the show happens, and it's a great time.
So it's almost like an album release show for the coffee. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I just like, I've always in my heart wanted to be like in a band, and I'm just not musically talented. So like, this is my way of like pretending like I'm in a band and I can do all these things by making cool merch and like throwing shows. So it's really cool. Like the next big collaboration, I mean, the one that we're working on right now is with Typo Negative.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we created a smoky wine blend called All Hallows Eve. And we made like a rip shirt that says like All Hallows Eve on it, Black Forge Coffee. And then we worked with an artist from Philly to create the front design, and then had espresso yourself on the back of the shirt. And, we did this. And this is another thing too, that it's a learning process. So Black Forge has done a lot of like collaborations. We also have done like a lot of rips of like big famous bands, like a lot of people do.
Like Cattle Decaffeination.
Yeah. And we do our best. Like we reach out to bands and like write them messages on Instagram if we can find their email. Cool. We're just like, hey, we're going to do this. Is this cool? And most of the time people don't ever hit us back. We're like, well, we tried, but here you go. And Typo Negative, we released this rip and the manager saw it and called the shop and was just like, hey, we need to talk to you. And my general manager at my shop, Typo Negative is his favorite band. So like he got to talk to him, told him what was up, and we made it so we collaborated. So we're donating 10% to this dog rescue that one of the band members' like wife's owns. And they were totally cool with us making this coffee in this lawn sleeve and selling it. So yeah, they like posted it on their Facebook yesterday, and I've never had so many sales ever in my life. And I was like, what? I don't know if we can do this.
I saw the design and I was like, that looks like a Typo Negative shirt. And then it didn't occur to me that it's like, oh, it is a collab, like it's a collaboration. So yeah, that's really cool.
So that's the one that we're working on right now. And like, we've done ones with like our friends in Code Orange. Like, they practice across the street from us at the other coffee shop. I used to like their band way before, like
when they were kids, the Code Orange kids.
They were Code Orange kids. Yeah. And like, they're just really cool people and they're always down to like collab in some sort of way. So, their recent show that they played in Pittsburgh, because their last show that they played in Pittsburgh, we created this coffee for them. I had it all roasted up, and it was the day the world got shut down of COVID. I had all this coffee. We were ready to vend. Everyone was just like, what's going on with the show? Like up until the last hour of it's supposed to be happening. And they're like, we're just going to live stream it. So I came down to the venue because it's right down the street from our second location, and just like brought some coffee, and I got to see the first like live show because of COVID over the internet. And I was like, this is fucking weird. And we like did that collaboration, and they sold it online, and that did really well. We just did one with Zayo. They're also really good friends of ours. We've made 3 coffees with them so far.
Shit.
And and then like the smaller bands and stuff too, like those are just so much fun because like I just love seeing people get excited about stuff. It just makes me so happy. So for someone to be like, my dream has always been to like have my own coffee or whatever, I'm like, cool, let's make that happen. Like we have the resources, let's just do it,
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then we have an artist collaboration coming up for like an arts guild of local artists here in Pittsburgh. And we're throwing an opening night for that in December, and releasing this coffee bag for it. And we're going to try and donate some money to some places for it too.
I know you'll have some more upcoming events. Are there any that you want to shout out that you're excited about?
I think I wrote a couple of them down. Oh yeah. So a couple of things. So today we have a satanic burlesque show called Red Sabbath, which I'm super stoked about going to tonight. And then every month we hold our heavy metal parking lot, which is, one of my employees had this idea, and I was like, oh yeah, like go ahead, do it. If you need help, let me know. And this is where it comes with the opportunities. I'm like, go ahead and do it, because even if it fails, so what? We'll do it again. Like my life is continuous failure, but like I keep going.
You always fail until it works, right?
Exactly. And I'm not there yet. It's constantly like, but this idea that came from my employee just like absolutely crushed it. And then so we have that coming up the first Sunday of November. And then Morta Scold is playing here, which I'm super stoked about. Immortal Bird is playing here. We just released that date, and that's in December. I did lights for them at Migration Fest here in Pittsburgh a couple years ago, and that was awesome. And then we have Cloak coming up too. So yeah, there's a couple of shows, and we do a lot of like, there's this one promoter. He's a cool guy. But he just like, he always books whatever's open. Like every Friday, Saturday, if there's nothing booked, he books it. And it's awesome because like it helps us a bunch. And he strictly books like bands in high school and just coming out of high school. Right. So these kids have somewhere to play every weekend. And those shows are always like close to sold out. Because where else are these bands playing right now, you know?
That's fucking incredible because in my hometown, we had one venue that we could play in high school and it was like the basement of a shitty pizza parlor.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys have like a professional venue with great sound, great lighting, and like a promoter that believes in these kids, that's fucking incredible.
It's awesome. Like, he doesn't like, I don't see him very often, but like he started booking shows at our original location. Years ago, he was like one of the first promoters to get in there, and he would continuously book these shows with all these young kids. And it was the coolest shit because everyone's just having a great time. And like your parents are there and they get to experience it and they can get a coffee or like bring their own wine. You know, we just have like a whole bunch of things that we like to offer. And like the biggest thing for me is like for the young artists out there, like, that's why I have this coffee shop is for the young artists that don't have anywhere to go. Cause that was me. Like I didn't have any coffee shops to go to. Like the only place I hung out at was at venues when I was in high school. I was like, our scene back then in Rochester was like the hardcore scene. Yeah. So it was like metal hardcore. But yeah, that's like the only place I hung out. And then I'd stay home most of the time. Yeah. So it's just like, it's a safe place for any age to come in. Like we don't serve alcohol. We make shows BYOB. And that's really like where we stand. We don't have issues. We don't have fights. Like it's just a really cool place to just see a show. That's awesome. And like any Friday or Saturday night at Black Forge, you can see something.
That's sick. You're on a van tour right now?
Yes, I am.
I would love to know, I've read a little bit about it, but I would love to know what inspired you and what the goal of this van tour is.
Yeah, I love this project so much because it means a lot to me. And the fact that I was able to even do it is still insane. But obviously because of COVID, all of these venues had to shut down. There was no sight to be seen of any help anywhere for these venue workers. And, being a lighting designer, and I'm very fortunate that I have a business, that pays me and everything, but like no one knew how they were getting paid. And I was like, what are we supposed to do? Like, this sucks. All of my friends I've worked with over the years are struggling. And I was like, how about if I take a tangible product, so I can roast coffee for days. If I take this product and sell it and donate 1% of it to just random venues that want to be involved or whatever, that's something, let it be $10, let it be $200. I don't know what we're going to get, but it's something because I care. And I released that January 1st of 2021. Yeah. And I was planning this tour before that. So I bought a van, a big cargo van, put Black Forge Coffee on the side of it. And I was like, I'm going to tour the country to all these little DIY venues, set up a pop-up outside of their venue to sell coffee because it's COVID safe that we're not indoors, and donate 1% of my sales to these venues. And, everyone, even my employees are like, I don't know what you're thinking. I'm like, no, just hear me out. Let me try it. Okay. Cause like worst case scenario, I own a van now. Like, oh, well, that really helps us a lot because we do so many events now too. Right. But my goal was to like jump on a tour of some sort. That is like my baseline. So I reached out to like a few places that were like having tours, but they just like weren't consistent because of the COVID stuff. But the Oddities and Curiosities Expo that travels the country, they were still doing their expo this year. And had like all the regulations and rules set in place. So it made me feel really comfortable. It made me feel safe that I could do it.
Right.
So I used that as my baseline. And I started in San Diego. And then when I looked at all my dates, I reached out to every venue that was near that expo in that city that I was in. And I was like, hey, I'm here for 3 days to do an expo. I'd love to set up in front of your spot. And we just promote it. Just say, hey, if your supporters and fans want to like come down and get a cup of coffee and they know that goes to you, why not? It gets people out of the house. Coffee is just, it's so loving. It's so important to our life. And I drove, my friend came with me. So it was January 1st, we released the coffee. And that was like the day where I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I made an online store. Cause like we're getting so many sales from so many people all over the world to like donate this money to these venues. And I had a list of venues that signed up that were like, yes, please, this is awesome. And they didn't have to do anything besides share it on social media.
Right.
And, at the end of the month, I was able to donate like a huge chunk of money to all these venues. And then, was it the second week of January is when I took off to California from Pennsylvania. So I drove cross country, did my first expo in San Diego. And then I did an entire week between San Diego and San Francisco of popping up at all these small businesses and venues and doing these donation things. And then from there, I just continued to do it. And it's literally the best experience for me to like work and do things physically with my hands and like talk to people and just make connections, and like to hand this money over to like someone that is so like beaten down on their luck and just be like, hey, like this is what I was able to do to you. It like brought me to tears because like, I just felt like I was making the tiniest little difference, and it made me feel good, which how often do we all feel really good about the things that we do,
Yeah.
But, for example, I did, what's that venue? 930 Club in Washington, DC.
Yeah.
I did that place for 2 days in a row. And each day I hit over $1,000 in just coffee sales because their fans and their supporters were coming out just like, yes, please. Even though there were coffee shops down the street, they saw that they said that I was going to be there, and these people just showed up and they're like, we love our venue. We don't want to lose it, blah, 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 blah. And like, now I'm seeing them book all these shows again. And I'm like, cool. Like, not saying that like my couple $100 made a difference, but it's like, I'm glad that they were able to see how much people care about them. Cause that was the coolest experience about all of it, is just like those people showing up and being like, I love my neighborhood venue. I will do anything to keep it alive. Right. And that's what happened. And, I have like a couple dates that I'm working on right now because my next expo is in Tampa. So I'll look for some venues around that area for that expo. And then I go to Oklahoma City, and then I'm done for 2021. And then I'm jumping back on that tour again next year to just do the expo in general. But I'm also working with a lot of different like promoters and stuff to work on getting on like tours officially, and like set up with bands and like sell their coffee and like have coffee at the merch table and stuff like that. So I'm working on a lot more stuff with traveling. I have a wonderful team at home that just like runs the 2 ships that we have. It's just really cool to have finally, like, it took 6.5 years, but I have this working ship that's like working kind of, there's still a lot of hiccups, but like, it's all good at the end of the day because we're all working together to find a solution and make it happen. Because like the tour was really hard on me, like physically, mentally, and emotionally, because I was alone a lot, like driving cross country all alone for miles and miles and miles, sleeping in the van. Like I built a bunk bed in there. So like I live in there while I'm on the road. And then like I'll get a hotel like when I get to the expo, and just so I can like shower and be a human. But like I'm just living the road dog life out there. And like I had to take a little bit of a break for the last month because like it just got to me. I couldn't do it anymore, but I'm feeling a lot better. And like I'm able to go out again in a couple of weeks and do it. I'm super excited. I feel refreshed. But that's the thing too, like with a lot of what I do, mental and emotional health is very important to me. Because I've spent a lot of time battling with it all of my life. And, this is the first time in a while where like I ran myself to the ground because this mission was so important to me. I'd sleep for 2 hours a day, set up, work for 12 hours, go to sleep. And just like, it was just tough. And I'm glad that I'm finally like better. Now I know my limits of like, you can't be gone for a month and a half and expect to be okay,
Yeah, that's
because
good.
like setting up those expos by myself too, like it's hard. And like dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of people every second is really draining. So it's cool to just be okay again and like fight for getting back on the road and continue to do what I do. That's so you always have to take care of your mental health. Like seriously, it's so important.
That is super important. I just talked with an interview not too long ago. We were talking a lot about that is, identifying your emotional and mental health and keeping that in check.
Yeah.
So definitely very important.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of like local artists in the past on doing like suicide awareness and prevention, events, setting up like little events where there's different people from different sources that you can call or talk to. Because like in the music industry, especially, that's where, a lot of my issues started to develop. I mean, you're in the dark half of the day, you're working really hard. Like you're dealing with so many people, you're sleeping like is crap, you're eating is crap. Like, I just remember like when I was in my early 20s, I started to fall down the rabbit hole of like doing drugs and drinking every night, like in the venue. And it was destroying me. And I had to like sit down with myself and be like, what are you doing? Like, it was because I was so depressed. Like I had nothing going on in my life besides show. I'd be there at 9 a.m, wouldn't leave till 2 a.m. And I would drink like all throughout the show, do lights. It just became a problem. So like identifying that and being like, yo, this is something that you got to change. You got to stop. I did. And it made me a lot better and a lot happier.
Right.
And then, opening up my own business, like that's just a whole stress in itself. Like I've had many, many breakdowns. I've had like several quarter life crisis at this point, like, but it's always just like, you have to really sit down with yourself, and it's cool to have a support system. Like I had my support system with me by my side through all of this. And it's a relationship where they can be like, Ashley, you need to like bring it down a notch and like chill. So that's really helpful too, because like I suffer with bipolar mania, and like there were times where I get off my medication and I start it back up again. And like, I was just, fluctuating so much. Right. And like when my mania hits, I forget like how to be a human. I'm just going. And I was off medication recently because they like switched it so many times and still a guinea pig. And I was like, I don't feel good. Like, no. But then I hit a wall, and like the worst thing that could happen happened. And I am very fortunate to still be here and like have those people that were there for me at that time come together and like rescue me. Because like I had a severe breakdown in the desert of Utah. And like that's just from being alone and like dealing with all the stresses that I have to deal with. And I just hit a wall and I wasn't on my medication. Right. And I dealt with a situation and I had to be brought to the hospital. Then I was put into a different hospital, and like the whole experience was just like a whole thing. And then my employee flew out to Salt Lake City, came and got me, found the van, found me, drove me back cross country. I took the last month off and like, I'm going back to therapy. I'm back on medication. Like I just started getting back into the office and like working regularly. And I'm just like, wow, I had to relearn how to be a person.
Right.
But it was necessary to take all of those steps to still be here. And I'm really glad that I did, for sure. Because that was the hardest thing, is just like when you feel so alone, even though you're not, there's nothing that can change that in your brain. Your brain is just doing what it's doing.
Yeah. And it's like the chemicals are, out of balance, and you're just spiraling, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
That was a spiral. Like, you are, at the end of the day, your own worst enemy. And I always live by that, because like, no one's telling me that I'm a bad person and I'm this and I'm that. I'm making that up in my head. And, that's really hard when it's just constantly running through. And something that I learned through one of my employees and really good friends is like, don't create scenarios that don't exist. And that was like super important. That's what's been playing in my head, is like, why would I just do the what if I don't have an actual scenario to base this off of, Right. So like, that's what's been helping me get through, is just like, wow, even just that one sentence can change everything. So yeah, it's super important. And that's, my goal through a lot of things right now is just to promote, like, you got to take care of yourself. If you want to be successful in any rate that you want to be successful, let it be opening up a business or just like being able to get up and go to work. You got to try, you got to take care of yourself.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you're definitely feeling better and,
Thank you.
taking care of yourself.
I appreciate it.
And thanks for being so transparent about, the details and things like that.
I feel like it's important to teach people through your experiences, because they might be going through the same thing.
Right.
And I've dealt with a lot of people in my life that have dealt with like mental health issues. I've lost people to suicide. And, I think it's important to talk about it if you are comfortable and feel good enough to talk about it.
Right.
Because like, if I tried to have this conversation 2 weeks ago, I couldn't talk about it.
Right.
So thank you for letting me be able to talk about it too.
I would like to transition to some more music talk, if that's okay.
Let's talk about music.
What's your current playlist?
Oh man. So I'm like all over the board when it comes to like metal. Like right now I'm in a real stoner metal vibe.
Okay.
So I'd say a lot of Monolord, Sleep, Windhand, Electric Wizard. That's pretty much what's on my current playlist right now, because that's what helps me kind of vibe out and like do my work.
Right.
It's like I'll light a joint and like sit there and plow through emails and like kind of vibe. I'll like forget that I was like in the middle of something. I'll just be like, yeah, this riff is heavy. Like, So like I'm very interactive with my music while I'm working. And I've had so much stuff to do right now. So I'm just like, yeah, this is the playlist. And it's been my playlist for the last like 2 weeks. So
okay. Stoner metal is hard for me. And I love the droniness and like the wall of sound. But yeah, I need like chaos.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely like early this morning I was listening to Daughters. Like crazy, like I was like making eggs and like toast and just like listening to Daughters this morning. But usually just like what I'm playing while I'm in the car or whatever is pretty much like stoner metal. Yeah. I also transition to like psych rock a little bit. I like the most recent band that I discovered that got me into psych rock was the OCs. I started listening to them a couple years ago. I discovered them at Levitation Fest in Austin. And I was like, whoa, 2 drummers playing psych rock, and like it was just chaos everywhere.
Yes.
And I really dug into a hole of just like that kind of realm of music. And it's a little poppier than what I like, but it's still a good time for sure. Like seeing that energy live is so cool. Like I just went to Psycho Las Vegas this year, and I was supposed to go the year before, but obviously whatever. Yeah. So this year, like I knew just again, like putting myself in other people's positions. I'm like, this festival is probably going to be super hard, like for these people that are working it, all the bands, like with half the people not showing up and like half the capacity and all that stuff. But there was like I got to see Danzig. Like,
that's tight.
What? That was so cool. I've never seen Danzig before. And, like that was really cool. And, just everything was awesome. Like High on Fire was great.
Yeah.
I got to discover like smaller bands on smaller stages. There was an all women's Black Sabbath band, and it was the best tribute band I've ever seen. It was killer.
That's tight.
And they just played on this tiny little stage. But yeah, that's what I'm super excited for, is like all these festivals that are happening too, that are coming up. Mm-hmm. I'm really trying to like sneak my way into like hopefully collaborating with like Slipknot or something and like get on Knotfest. Yeah. Like really fingers crossed. Like they're one of their like managers or whatever reached out to us because like their website hosts like podcasts and all that stuff, and they have like a little section for like metal small businesses, mm-hmm. and they like promoted us on their website, and I was like, whoa,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they asked us to like give them our favorite coffee, and I literally I just sat there for days. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is going on Slipknot's website. Like, what coffee do we use? And we have our espresso blend, which is called Gravity Blast. Mm-hmm. And we decided to like send that to them, and they posted it, and we got like thousands of followers that day, a bunch of orders for the Gravity Blast. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm really grateful for those experiences for sure. And it's all because of music. Like right. It's all because of supporting people that are happy and passionate about what they do.
Right.
That's the best thing ever.
It's key. It's key.
It really is.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me on a Saturday morning. I have one last question for you.
Yes.
What is your favorite city for beans and breakdowns?
I would have to say New York. New York City for sure. That's where I've seen a lot of great bands play, and also a lot of great coffee. I would say New York City for sure.
Is there like a shop that you always visit in New York?
No, I've never been to the same shop because there's so many.
There's so many.
But yeah. I mean, second place, I would say Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. But I feel like, if you're trying to see some cool metal, experience like a small town kind of feel or a small city kind of feel, Pittsburgh's the place to go. And come visit Black Forge while you're here.
For sure. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. I wish you all the best with the van tour continuing, coming up towards the end of the year, and everything going on with Black Forge. Everybody make sure to check out is blackforgecoffee.com.
Yep.
And on Instagram, you can also find Black Forge.
Yeah.
So, we'll have a great rest of your Saturday, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I want to give a huge shout out to Ashley for coming on the podcast and talking about Black Forge, her background in coffee and music, as well as being so vulnerable and transparent about some of the issues that she's dealt with personally. If you'd like to learn more about Black Forge, you can visit them on their website, blackforgecoffee.com, as well as follow them on Instagram at blackforgeshop. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. You can also find out more about the podcast on our website, beansandbreakdowns.com, and follow us on Instagram at beansandbreakdowns. Until next week, stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up.